Are you giving them the right thing? You have chosen that and it works. It's the right thing.
Laura Modi is the founder and CEO of Bobbie, the first mom-founded infant feeding company and the third largest fully integrated infant formula manufacturer in the US.
When I found out I was pregnant with my next baby, I said, I will have a better formula in market before this next baby comes.
As a mother of four, Modi is on a mission to fundamentally reform the infant formula industry, setting higher nutritional standards, increasing transparency, and driving accountability in a historically opaque and under-regulated space.
Why is it that the same products that I had 40 years before this are the same ones that still exist today? We can do something better.
To date, Bobbie has nourished over 600,000 American babies. Modi has been recognized as a Time Woman of the Year and a CNBC changemaker, hailed as a disruptive force in a $90 billion global industry that has long prioritized profits over parents. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me.
You've said that Bobbie was born out of your own feeding journey. Can you tell us about the exact moment you decided, I'm going to build this product?
Oof. Okay. The distinction I would make is that from the inspiration versus the motivation to actually go do something about it are two very different things. The inspiration, where I had my first daughter, where I realized I can't do what I expected I would do. I thought I would breastfeed and I'm anatomically unable to do that. I'm disappointed. I feel guilty. I'm embarrassed. Versus the moment I decided to do it was when I peed on a stick for the second time and found out I was pregnant with my next baby. I said, I will have a better formula in market before this next baby comes.
That's incredible. I mean, and you make it sound like, of course, but really, what was sort of from sort of inspiration to
the motivation?
I'm going to do it.
Yeah,
you know.
I mean, it was I call it my mini PhD. So for that year, I found myself awake at 2 a.m. doing Google searches late at night, saying, why is it that the same industry and the same products that I had 40 years before this are the same ones that still exist today? Why is it that I feel so bad? Why is it that there's a stigma? Why is it that we don't have paid leave? So it was an entire year of research and going on a mini crazy researcher mom journey to say, we can do something better.
So in terms of breastfeeding, because certainly when I had my first child, which was almost 22 years ago, I had a lot of friends who had so much shame around not being able to, whether they could breastfeed a little or not at all. It almost didn't. It was absolutely devastating. You know, this idea that, you know, you imagine my primary function in life is to be able to nourish my child. What role do you think shame plays in our culture still around breastfeeding?
It's a great question. It's something I have had to sort of study and build a relationship with over the years to really understand. And we use the word stigma a lot. So let's unpack stigma. Where does stigma come from? It usually comes from a limitation, an inability to access something that you get to choose. So let's rewind where the breastfeeding stigma or the formula stigma comes from here in the country. We don't have much choice. We live in a country where we're told, hey, mom, you should exclusively breastfeed your child for the next 6 months. But while you're at it, you also need to get back to work.
Right.
We're not given choice when it comes to different brands, different options on shelf. And there's also the added stigma, which is told that breast milk is liquid gold. And it is the thing that you should do for your child. And it is what is best. So you remember, I mean, you become a mother, you want to do what's best for your child. When you're unable to, you're left with that shame and guilt for not being able to do what's best.
Yeah, absolutely. When you first pitched the idea to potential investors, you were pregnant. Did you feel like you had to overperform as a female entrepreneur seeking investment?
Oh my God, you bring PTSD back in that question. I would say yes. And I actually vividly remember going into those pitches thinking, I'm 8 months pregnant, pitching an infant formula for what I would want to feed to this child. And I have a unique insight into what is needed to evolve this industry. So I went in very confident, believing this would actually help. But instead of walking in where investors saw me as a mom who had an entrepreneurial insight into what the rest of the industry would see, what they saw was a mom with a passion project. And in reflection, I look back at that moment thinking, this should be an asset. Being pregnant and having the most vulnerable, most beautiful thing in my life enter the world that I am going to put all of my work into feeding should actually be an asset in those meetings. And I don't entirely know if it was.
So Bobbie became the first and only USDA certified organic infant formula made in the US. How has that milestone changed the way you grow your business?
I think every industry should be looking to evolve, continuously improve. And when you actually go back on the market for a second, the reason why that is such a major milestone is less than 5% of infant formulas on the market are USDA organic certified. But when you look at every other industry, we have evolved over the last 15 years where the majority of good for you products on shelf have that certification that say this is pesticide free, this is clean.
It's just the idea that you need formula at all is so, is such a stigma that you'll just take whatever. I mean, I'm really curious about this and I feel like we should have the answer.
We should. Zoom back out for a second. 10 years ago when I was considering breaking in, the market was dominated by two players. It is very concentrated, stagnant, hadn't changed since the 1980s. And like I said, the formulas we consumed ourselves as children were the same ones we were buying our own babies.
Right.
So the question is less about the product or why has no one done it, but how has the industry existed to prevent the insurgents from entering?
So the term liquid gold is often used to describe breast milk. That in and of itself seems to enforce this idea that the breast is best mentality. How do you work to combat this notion that there is only one good way to feed your infant?
Breast milk is so beautiful. It's the most dynamic, personal, think about it. Our body makes food. That is incredible. It's incredible. I breastfed all 4 of my children. And 2 things can be true at the same time. I think sometimes over the years being an infant formula CEO, I've come to see that we often pit them against each other. And by the way, that can be liquid gold and it can sit over here on the right. But rather than put formula under liquid gold, rather than putting it under breast milk, we should be able to put it side by side. And we should put it side by side in a way that we can refer to bottle gold as a choice and an opportunity that where a mother is unable to breastfeed, or maybe chooses not to, that she's not feeling less than.
And as every working mother can attest, you may do both.
You may do both.
You can't often produce all of it.
You can't.
Yourself. It's
actually most do.
Yeah.
70%, and I believe it's even on the rise, are doing both. And that's a very rare thing to hear of combo feeding. Most people speak about being a breastfeeder or they're formula feeding, when in reality, most people are doing both.
Bobbie aims to bring empathy and honesty to the feeding conversation. How and why is this so important?
Becoming a parent is isolating. It is isolating. It is lonely. You're 30 pounds overweight. You're a shell of a human. You're questioning your own identity. And you go into motherhood. And I remember this. I remember going back and saying, I'm going to breastfeed and it's going to work perfectly and the skies are going to open up and it's going to be gorgeous. And no matter who came to me and said, be prepared for something else, I wouldn't have listened. When I realized I was so radically disappointed in my own body and my ability to be able to do what I had so desperately wanted, I needed empathy. I hope to look back as a brand and in the next 10, 15 years, that if we can change what it means for someone to feel a relationship with what you're feeding your child, how the brand is showing up, why you've made the decision to buy this product because you feel that empathy and honesty, then we've done our job.
The village is a real thing. And I think we have, in our ways with our friends, with our, some people are lucky enough to have extended family live nearby, but I certainly didn't. I mean, I had some, but I didn't have all of my people. How do you think the lack of systemic support fuels guilt and shame around motherhood in the United States?
We are asking a mother to go out and choose, but actually she doesn't have much choice. A mother is having a baby today, and depending on her circumstances, she has to choose whether she is going to pay her bills and go back to work or choose to breastfeed her child. That is not a decision we should put on any new parent.
Yeah, absolutely.
Should you choose to survive, or should you choose to feed your baby what is considered best? In Europe, they are given at minimum 8 to 10 months of paid leave, and then most of them even go beyond. They have choice.
Yeah.
And that choice removes, I think, the stigma, ultimately.
As you've built Bobbie and continue to advocate for parents, are there communities that you feel are left behind more than others?
Yeah, close to 50% of babies born in this country are under and have the opportunity to access formula via WIC. Essentially meaning they are under an income bracket to be able to choose an infant formula or pay for the infant formula to be able to feed their baby. That is a large segment of folks. And just to do a further click on this, what you're essentially seeing is that those that are feeding their baby on WIC only have an opportunity to choose one brand. Because we've created a system where there's a bidding per state. And if you live in a certain state at a time that you have your child, you will be able to choose between one brand or another. That's it. You look at these micro communities who've undergone something in life that requires them to be able to support how they feed their child. And I think sometimes in these broken policies, or these gaps in these micro communities, we're just ignoring how to support them.
How did you build the Bobbie community out of product? Because we're not typically inclined to glom onto a community when it's product driven.
Yeah. I remember getting Bobbie started. We decided to do what we call behind the scenes. Every single week, we would pull several dozen moms. They weren't yet customers. We hadn't even launched Bobbie, into a private Zoom conversation where we would just talk for an hour. Talk about what we wanted the industry to look like, how the conversation should change, what ingredients did we love, not love, what would they hope to see from a new brand that was about to enter the space. After close to 2 years of doing this every single week, we had several thousand people that we had engaged. So before we even launched the company, we had a founding community who felt very close to why this was happening.
And how often do you, as you evolve the product, I imagine that you are engaging the community for feedback?
Every time.
Yeah.
And it's not just the product. I think everyone remembers, everyone and their grandmother, going back to 2022, there was a national infant formula shortage. America could not feed babies.
Right.
That was wild. At that time, we decided to engage our community in all of the ways that America needed to become more resilient. We brought moms to Capitol Hill. They were fighting for more domestic manufacturing, fighting for policy changes. And I think that was the birth of our activism, to say that our community also wanted to play a role in change. And it hasn't stopped.
I mean, it really is, a testament to mothers. They will stop at nothing.
Don't stop mothering. Don't stop mothering.
We talk about, because of course it's women who are doing the breastfeeding or not doing the breastfeeding, as the case may be. But with formula, it opens up the possibility for men to be
totally
the nourishers.
Support system.
Exactly. And actually it democratizes the business of nourishing the child.
Yeah.
Have you seen that in your business? Because I imagine, everybody cares, male, female, what they're putting in their baby's body.
They do. And I think even outside of formula, men are playing a much bigger role than they have in the past.
Yeah.
And not just in the role of doing the job, but in the decision making and the research, which we all know, the mind share that has to go into making certain decisions, to the planning, to the scheduling, to the what do I feed my child? How do I feed my child? So to watch men step into, let me go figure this out, I actually think is a huge accomplishment for us all.
What did you want when you set out to start this business? What did you want Bobbie to represent to mothers?
I really believe that we're standing on the shoulders of every other parent. We're standing on the shoulders of these parents who have pushed against the grain, who have questioned the status quo, who are out there saying, hey, there shouldn't be stigma against this. And I want Bobbie to represent for them something that they've accomplished. Yes, I founded the business. And I feel like the pace setter every day in making sure that we continue to build it. But I will tell you time and time and time again, we have accomplished everything in this company, from changing policies to changing the conversation, because of the community. And if every person who chooses to feed their baby feels that they've contributed to that, it's a community win.
You become so vulnerable in the doctor's office, and you just listen. I mean, I feel like this happens even though I know all the questions to ask, and this is the business that we're in, and we are huge advocates of all things women's health. But I think we all sort of lose something when we are, in that hospital gown. And male, female doctor, it doesn't even matter. But we are so loath to challenge the status quo at every level of our health and child rearing and, birthing journeys.
Yes.
So this idea of Bobbie representing that sort of trust your gut.
Trust your gut. Trust your gut and come on the journey. I feel so fortunate. We've created the platform and then the product to now invite more people in to be able to play a role in that. The more voices will get more done.
For parents just starting their feeding journey, what's the one piece of reassurance you would give to every mom?
Whether it's breastfeeding, whether it's bottle feeding, whether it's Bobbie or not, your baby and your choice are the right one. Choose what's right for them, what's affordable, what's accessible, what's available, what's suitable. The feeling that you should have to go to bed at night questioning, are you giving them the right thing? You have chosen that and it works. It's the right thing.